Hi, welcome back. It dawned on me the other day that as I've been doing these videos, I am not saying my name. Hi, I am Kat Myers, author and also professor of criminal justice, among other things. And we have been doing the 4-day writing challenge, therapeutic writing. My goal is, one, to do some research for a course I'm developing, but also to help move to another level of healing. So if you've been following along with the videos, you know that we are on our third prompt, so we only have one more to go. So if you've been hanging in there, keep hanging in there, because we only have one more. You come this far. And if you're new, I do encourage you to go back and watch the previous videos so you can get caught up to where we are today. But for those of you who have been writing right along with me, first thing I want to say is you are slaying it. So good for you. Keep going, keep writing. Hopefully you're seeing some benefit. I know I am, to this process. So today, just like we did yesterday and the day before, I'm going to go over the writing prompt, and then I'm going to invite you to pause and do the writing, and then we can come back and reflect on it. So for today, the writing prompt is: your primary goal is to focus on your emotions and thoughts about those events that are affecting your life most right now. So it's a little bit of a twist for what we were writing yesterday. We're still thinking about our emotions and thoughts, but about events that are affecting your life most right now. And I'm going back to the tablet because James Penny Baker said a little bit more. So writing about the same general topic is fine, but you also need to explore it from different perspectives. As you write about this emotional upheaval, what are you feeling and thinking? How has this event shaped this life and who you are? In today's writing, allow yourself to explore those deep issues about which you may be particularly vulnerable. Okay. And as always, write continuously for the entire 20 minutes. And of course, this is from James Penny Baker's book, Expressive Writing, Words That Heal. All right, so that is the prompt. That is what we're going to be doing for the next 20 minutes. So I invite you to pause here. And like I've been doing, I've been setting my phone for 20 minutes. Also, again, be thinking about, hopefully you did some type of self-care in advance of this. So I'm going to take some time and just have a little bit of meditation, prayer time for maybe like 5 minutes, just to kind of center myself and just shut out all the noise of the day so that I'm ready to focus in and listen to what's going on inside of me. I encourage you to do something pre-writing to prepare yourself and to take care of yourself. And then the during, where are you going to write? How are you making sure the space is safe and comfortable and conducive for your writing? Make sure you're doing that. I'll be writing in my cozy bedroom since the laundry is done. I haven't put it away yet, but it is done. And so make sure that you have a space where you can write and you feel comfortable writing. And when you are sure that you have all that ready, go ahead and set your alarm or your phone for 20 minutes and start writing on that prompt. And we'll come back and explore. Okay, so how is that? I had a lot of interesting thoughts in this one. So if you haven't done this before, take a screenshot. This is the guide that we'll be using. We'll be going through 5 questions, and for each question, you will rank them 1 through 10, excuse me, 0 through 10. I can read. 0 through 10. 0 meaning not at all. You didn't experience that at all. In the middle would be 5, somewhat, and then 10 would be you experienced it a great deal. This is not a grade, but just to gauge where you are in this process. So do that. I would say for me in this one, so the prompt was asking to write about how your emotions and your thoughts about that experience, how it's affecting you today. So for me, I focus mostly on how my childhood abuse is affecting me today, specifically in the area of dating relationships. And I picked that because I'm currently going through this thing of really kind of re-examining some relationships in my life, um, and where they're going, and are these ones I want to continue or not? And are they really what I want out of life? And as I say that, I was thinking about that, like, what if my future husband is watching this right now? So this is September 22. So if you're not watching this in September 22, future husband, don't worry about it. This was this is what I'm feeling right now, September 2022. Okay, so all that out of the way, that's what I explored in my writing for today. You didn't have to do that, whatever was really in your heart. And I think because we've been doing this writing now, maybe certain themes have been coming up for you that you've wanted to go deeper into, and you probably wrote on something along those lines, or maybe you wrote about what you've been writing all along. So it's all up to you. You're in control of this process. What direction you went in, that's all up to you. I'm just sharing it. So as you process, we can process together. All right, so let's go into the questions. First, to what degree did you express your deepest thoughts and feelings? And so for this one, I scored myself an 8 because I did go pretty deep. Not so much on the feelings, but a lot on the thoughts. I found myself almost like stream of conscious writing. Like I wasn't really sure where I was going to go. I just started writing. And in that writing, it brought up a lot of questions. So every question that came up, I wrote it down. I just kept writing, not really the answers because I didn't have any at first. I just started writing down the questions. And from that, it led me down a certain path. And in the middle of that, I started thinking about, for me, just my frustration with relationships. I do a lot of work on myself and trying to prepare myself for, the one. And it's frustrating to meet people and you think it's going one way and then it doesn't go anywhere. And I feel like, oh, I've just wasted all this time. This isn't really benefiting me. Am I ever going to find what I'm looking for? And all that frustration. And it started to make me think, as I was trying to connect it to my past experience with abuse, um, is the idea of dating and relationships and one day finding a husband, is that just something that will always be a struggle for me? And this is something that I can put on a checklist of things I've lost because of the trauma. And I made kind of a list of things I feel like I've lost or have been sacrificed because of the trauma I experienced. And it wasn't a long list. It was probably like 4 or 5 things. Um, Happiness, not always. I mean, I feel like I'm happy most of the times, but it can sometimes steal my happiness. A sense of security at times. One of the big ones was innocence, and that one I explored a lot in more detail. And just the challenge of relationships in general. So it was a lot more cerebral this time, not as much crying and emotional stuff this time through. So I gave myself an 8 on that level. Next question. To what degree do you currently feel sad or upset? So after going through that process, I gave myself 0. I actually was not sad at all um, by the time I finished writing, because by the time I finished writing and just asking questions and answering questions, I realized certain things, like the abuse that I went through did not steal away my happiness or contentment in life, because I don't think they can really be stolen. I feel like happiness is something that it could be depleted. Like we all go through periods of life when we're happy and we're not happy, but it's something that can never be completely taken away. Yes, there are times in life where I'm not happy, but that doesn't mean I'll never be happy again. And really, my happiness or my contentment is not dependent on any other person. So that would be a lot of pressure to put on another man to bring me happiness, and give them a lot of power. But it would also give my abusers a lot of power to say that they stole away my happiness or my contentment in life. They don't, neither side have that much power or control in my life. So I think that realization that to the extent that I'm not feeling happy or content at any moment in time, it really comes down to me. Um, Looking inward and seeing, well, what is it, what's going on, and what can I do to make myself happy in that moment. Really, it's a me and God thing. This is not really a spiritual video, but I'm a believer, and so I that's something I would bring to God, and it's God's responsibility in my eyes, um, to make sure I'm happy and content. And when I lean on Him, I find that. But just in general, it's no one else's responsibility. We all have enough to take care of our own selves. Um, but to put someone else's happiness and contentment on anyone else is too much. It would be too much for me to expect for someone to expect me to keep them happy and content. That's too much. So I realized through that writing that, um, even though at the time, because I'm thinking about relationships and the direction of this particular relationship, I was feeling sad. It really has nothing to do with my past trauma. And sometimes I lean on that and say, it's because of this. This is why I'm not happy, or this is why I feel this way. Where I could probably be in the same place, having the same emotions if I hadn't gone through that. Um, I just don't, once I started doing that writing, I felt differently. So therefore, to answer question B, yeah, I felt actually pretty upbeat and encouraged, um, to realize that the people that hurt me as a child do not have any power over me today. Um, that's very empowering and very exciting, and very liberating. Writing to be free. Okay. C, to what degree do you currently feel happy? I gave myself a 6 because honestly, again, if I'm talking about or thinking about abuse, it's never going to be something I'm going to be happy in that moment. But I wasn't down in the dumps. This is the first time I didn't cry at all doing this writing. There were no tears, not at all, not even like a welling up, nothing. So that's good. And I think, again, by the end of the writing, I just felt in a much more hopeful place. Um, so yeah, I was feeling not a 10 as far as happiness is concerned, but better than the middle of 5, slightly better. I'll say that. So that was my C. And then D, to what degree did you find today's writing valuable or meaningful? I gave that a 7.5. I was kind of hedging it. I felt like it was too much, probably because of where I was emotionally, not ecstatically happy. I couldn't give it an 8, but I was actually in a more pleasant mood, because I did find value in this writing. I did find, a direction, which was good, and some encouragement and hope. Um, and that was good. So for me, I did find the writing this time valuable, though I found all the writings valuable so far. Hopefully you are too. Um, but if not, we keep going. We have one more day. So, last thing, briefly describe how your writing went today. And again, we're going to be using this kind of as a gauge to refer back later. So, I just wrote for myself. This was more of a stream of conscious experience. I asked a lot of questions this time in my writing, and also there were no tears. That's always a big deal for me. Absolutely no tears, even though I was applying myself and I was really tackling some serious topics that were important for me today. Like, this is stuff that I've been thinking about today, but I wasn't sad. So that was good. And in the end, I wrote this. I did end feeling empowered and hopeful. So that's where I was. So that was a brief description of where I felt, or how I felt doing the writing today. Feel free to share in the chat how you felt doing this process in general, and specifically doing this writing exercise today. And then as we get to it, as we're getting closer to the end of this, there were things that Penny Baker invited us to think about as you're processing the third of these writings. We're looking for patterns. We're looking for themes that are coming up that maybe you had never thought about before. So be thinking about that. There were a couple things he talked about. I'm going to pull them up right here on my tablet that I think were pretty eye-opening. He says that the third day of writing is highly significant. So you didn't realize it, but we were doing something highly significant today. People often arrive at critical issues they have been avoiding. Whereas the first two writing sessions can be like putting your toes in water. It's like just dipping your toes into some water. To see if it's cold or not. By the third day, some people are ready to jump in completely, ready to dive in deep. By the third day of writing, some people, they start to run out of steam though. But both patterns are associated with improved health. So even if you weren't one that felt like, I have all these great revelations, but maybe you're kind of running out of steam or energy, that's a good thing too. If it's not continuously stirring up more and more painful feelings for you, that's actually a good sign of healing. And if it is stirring up painful um, emotions for you, that's good. Also, how can both be good? Because for those people, it's showing you that there's areas of exploration that you need, and once you can deal with them, you get to move to the next level. And these things, those emotions may be something that might have been holding you back in some area of your life, and you weren't even aware of it. So awareness is always the first step. So just as a gauge to see where you are today, if you were writing and really going in deep, that's good. That's a sign of healing. And if you're writing and feeling like you're running out of steam, one, we only have one more day left, but also it's a sign of healing, that you're not as emotionally charged. That's a good thing. So in thinking it over in this process, what issues or themes are surfacing as most important for you? I will say that I this theme about innocence came up a lot in my writings, and loss of innocence, and I felt that in the past, like almost envious when I see people that have that innocence, that childlike innocence. I felt like I lost that very early. Um, I mean, I was 5 years old when all these things were going on, and so from that point on, I knew that there was evil in the world, and I miss being just goofy and silly and just free and trusting. But even through the writing, I could see a benefit to it. Like, I don't want to be innocent like that at my age now. That wouldn't be good. There's a benefit to the maturity and wisdom of having been through those experiences. So that was a common theme that I came across. Um, have you been surprised by any of your feelings while you were writing? For me, no, not really. Nothing has really jumped out, but I do a lot of thinking and reflecting and writing, and been in therapy and read a lot of self-help books. So there wasn't a lot of things that were coming up for me that were new, but again, it doesn't mean it hasn't been beneficial. So just because you're not suddenly coming to these great revelations doesn't mean you're not benefiting from the process. Has the writing provoked any thoughts during periods that you've been away from it? So here he's talking about when you're not doing the writing exercises. have things been coming up for you at those stages while you're at work, when you get ready to go to bed, when you're doing the dishes? Have things been coming up for you? Um, and I will say yes, to some degree, particularly on my way to work. I take the train to work, so I have a lot of time to think. So I'll think about things there. And like I said, I've been thinking about this relationship issue. So definitely, it's been tied in, tied into this relationship um, issue has been the writing that I've been doing. And how is it affecting your emotions? Um, Now, this one for me, I would say, like today, it was a good day. There were no tears. And I guess it's not bad if there are tears. Um, but I think because I'm dealing with this relationship thing, I was a little bit more sad today before I did the writing, because I was wrestling with that. But I don't necessarily think the act of writing itself or the thought of writing, I wasn't dreading doing the writing. I think it just, they both coincide with each other. But generally speaking, I will say that at the end of the writings, I am ending on a positive note. And partly that's intentional for me. And Penny Baker talks about in the book um, trying to find positives, trying to tie things up in a positive light, which we'll talk about more tomorrow for the last prompts. And he didn't mention this early in the writing process by design, because he didn't want people, when they do these exercises, to tailor their writing. He wanted it to be more free and expressive. And if you already know, well, you need to be looking for positives. Is that going to affect your writing? So everything you did was perfect. How you did it was perfect. I just, by nature, whenever I do something like this, I always try to find, like, was there a silver lining in any of that? And it just makes me feel better. So I do feel like at the end of these, I've ended on a positive note, to try to find something positive. So by the end, I usually am in a pretty good mood, even though I may be a little bit down, just because I processed some pretty weighty material just before. Okay. So that's where I am in this process. And again, feel free to share. And like I said before, tell me what you think about having a Facebook group where we can process. Because even when we're done this 4-day challenge, I'm going to do more writing prompts and we'll process it. Not just these, but from other sources and through other topics. And I was thinking maybe a Facebook group might be a good um, platform for us to come together and share a little bit more freely. But okay, so that's where we are, thinking it over. As always, what is your self care? What are you doing? So for this one, I did I didn't do just quiet meditation or sitting and staring out at the sky like I did before. I danced. I was listening to a sermon earlier about worship, and it kind of got me fired up. So, and it's something I like to do anyway in my home. I live, by myself, so I can do whatever I want. No one will see me. Um, and I just put on some good music and I danced. Not quite like him, but I did. I loved it. It just, it's so freeing, emotionally and physically, because a lot of times the emotions that we feel are trapped in our bodies, and moving the body, getting the body moving, can just loosen up those things and be a good release. So for me, that's what I did. And even though Penny Baker talks about having a ritual or routine, which I agree is good, I also realized maybe we don't even know what our routine is yet. If this is our first time through, I have lots of different things I do as far as self care. And I have to figure out what's going to work best for me, what's realistic for me. Working a full time job and coming home, you know, it may not be reasonable to expect certain ways of self-care. I may not always be able to get out and walk on the trail or do other things, or just maybe my spirit needs something different. I needed to dance. So that's what I did. What did you do? So feel free to share that with me. And the good news is we've only got one to go. We are there. We've done 3, and tomorrow is going to be really interesting. I hope you are still up for the journey. You've made it this far. You just got one more to go. So hang in there, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.